Hello and welcome to your tutorial on unique learning systems. Welcome, welcome. We are going to be spending this tutorial going through specifically the curriculum component of unique learning systems. So what you do is you go to news2.com and you sign in, and this is what the homepage looks like. You're going to see lots of fun stuff, little icons that go into ULS, unique learning systems, Inspire, News2You. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to unique learning systems. We're going to click that little icon. And last, we're going to look at courses. So this is an interesting section of unique learning systems. So it just depends on your style and how much you want them to do the work for you. For me personally, when I am creating a lesson, I like to use the unique learning systems lessons to find all the pieces that I want. And I use those pieces to create my lesson, right? I like to be able to search by standards and like all that stuff. So like that is my style. In in science and social studies, I obviously lean more toward this, and you're going to see why. So when we were searching for science and social studies activities in the section that we were in before in this, let me show you, in the lesson section, you notice that in the lesson section, I went to unit 4, that's where we were, and I clicked on science and there was one activity. And I clicked on social studies and there was one activity. That is because every unit does not touch on all of the science and social studies activities, but that does not mean that they are not in unique learning systems. That means that it doesn't touch on them in every unit, which, I mean, if you think about it, makes sense. Like, you're not going to teach every science standard during the month of April. That's weird, right? Like, it doesn't work for science and social studies. It does kind of work for ELA and math because these are areas. Like, you might be doing number sense every single month, but the number sense is shifting from addition to subtraction to multiplication to division. You know, like it might be number identification when you first start. It might be identifying subitizing. You know, like these are all things that are under that parameter. Or geometry. You might be teaching geometry. You should be teaching geometry every single month, but you're teaching it a different way. Maybe it's two-dimensional shapes, and then it's three-dimensional shapes, and then it's maybe, I don't know, mapping. You understand graphing. Like, these are things that you're going to be touching on the skills and building the skills for, and it's the same thing in ELA. So, like, math and ELA are kind of a spectrum of learning, right? And you have foundational pieces that you need to get to the next level, and then you have things that are independent that you don't necessarily need to be phonemically aware. You might be limited phonemically, which impacts your ability to read, basic words or even read a text, but that doesn't necessarily impact your ability to comprehend a text, right? It might impact your fluency when reading because you're unable to sound out the individual sounds in a word, but it's not necessarily impacting your written expression and your ability to complete a fill-in-the-blank activity. So, like, it's so complex, right? So that's why lessons are great for reading and math, because they're all encompassing and they hit as many standards as possible. Science. In this area, I really like to focus on science and social studies. You can do it with math and reading. If I click on math, it's going to have different courses, and they're broken up by the different umbrellas for each of the standards. So like if you're working on matching and sorting, if you're working on identifying shapes, then you're going to find those courses here. So let's just open one to see it. So let's say you're doing matching and sorting and you're working on little and big. Has the PDF option, it has the interactive option. You can also view the activities if you want to do them individually. These are all just different ways to access this material, right? Like, they want to give you a bunch of different ways to access it so that you can choose. All right, so when you pull up a course, it's going to be organized into the pre-assessment. So it's going to give you a little assessment to see where you're at. There's going to be vocabulary games and review. There is going to be like a study on tools and manipulatives. I love their show and tell activities. These are super fun. Take a look at those. And so it's going to have all of these pieces that you can use to teach the subject. It's like a full course. The course is on big and little, right? And there's going to be interactive pieces. Like I said, this is going to be a bunch of pages. I don't like to access it like this. I like to find what I need in the PDF or find what I need on this page. And then I like to open that as an individual assignment or as an individual interact. So these are really cool, right? Here's what you need for science and social studies. You are going to make your pacing guide for the year, right? And that pacing guide is going to make sure that you have a lot of time on the subjects that we know are going to be hit on that Extend 1 testing. Fact of life, sorry. It just is what it is. So if you see the data from last year and it says 45 questions were on chemical and physical change, you know, not only are you going to make sure that you have a full month to cover chemical and physical change, you're going to make sure you have time to cover it again during your review at the end of the year. It's intentional. So you know that you're going to want to do that. And to do that and to decide how you want to order your science and your pacing guide, you're teaching a whole grade band of 3rd through 5th graders in this scenario, but you know that 5th grade is the tested year. You're gonna touch on all the subjects. You're not gonna leave anything out, but you know that 5th grade is being tested, and that is going to influence your decision making, right? So let's just use chemical and physical change as an example. Lots of pages. This section you're gonna see lots of materials for science and social studies. So chemical and physical change. Let's see. What do we got? Oh yeah. So I typed in chemical and physical change. Oh, and let's see, chemical, physical changes, making fudge. Looks like all of these are kind of related. So, now you can also type in the standard here. And this is kind of like the library. Remember I was saying like, oh, it's a little finicky. And you gotta type in just the right thing. So I'm just like exploring right now. Let me look at their Earth spins, Earth fossils, minerals, Mexico, moon phase, recycling, changes in season. Nope. We keep going. Water. I couldn't have picked one that was easy, right? Photosynthesis. Look at all these different subjects, right? Oh, good. Earth science, life science. They're broken up by that. I bet it's on the last page. I bet it is all the way back here. Physical science. Here we go. There's gravity, energy, elements, how things move, force and motion. Oh, there we go. Physical and chemical changes. All right. So this is going to be the course. Physical and chemical changes. Look at this. I'm also probably going to teach about matter because I usually teach about matter before I teach about physical and chemical change. But let's come to this one because this is the one that I decided to use as my example for some reason, even though there was a million different ones I could have used. This is the one I wanted. So let's come here to chemical and physical change, and I'm going to view the activities. And then these are going to be some activities that it is giving me to do for chemical and physical change. So I know if I'm making a lesson about chemical and physical change, I'm probably going to include this text, right? This is going to be a part of the lesson. I'm probably going to do this. I don't even know what this is. Let's see. Probably questions for the text. Let's see. Everything's going to have a lesson plan page. Always know that you are going to have your lesson plan page and your, I love these. Okay. We didn't talk about this yet. So when you have an activity that goes with a read aloud, there is actually going to be a description of what they would do with an activity. This is awesome. So this is great if you're not great about like coming up with discussion ideas on the fly. This is an awesome way to have it kind of do it for you and work you through the process. And you don't have to do it exactly as they say it, but it might inspire you with different things you want to do. So it will always give you a before reading a during reading and an after reading. And they see it as a all-encompassing, like a whole lesson, and it's giving you some ideas to use while you're doing it. So it's going to give you some key things that you want to do. Before the reading, you might want to activate their prior knowledge, discuss changes that happen to matter, because you wouldn't be teaching this without the foundation of teaching about matter, right? You're going to show them the story. You're going to preview the story. Maybe you're going to do a picture walk and point out the illustrations and point out the different things in the story. So it's telling you to go through a picture walk. And then it gives you something that you can say, tell the students, as we read today, it's your job to remember one way that matter can change. So giving them a focus goal. And then it also gives you could use this as a repeated storyline. I will remember one way that matter can change. I will remember one way that matter can change. You can record that on the switch, have that be somebody's job to help everyone, remind them what their goal is, right? What their objective is. And then it tells you some things to do that would be good during the reading itself. So you're reading it aloud, you're showing fluency and expression, you're modeling the behavior, right, that you want to see in them. You're calling attention to different words that are important in the text. This gives examples: solid, gas, liquid, melt, freeze, hot, cold. You are interacting with text, so you're commenting on people, settings, and events. Comment on how you relate to the illustrations, and think about how matter can change, and call upon your prior knowledge. Model that behavior. This, for some of us, seems like second nature, but for a lot of people, whether they're brand new or have been teaching for a long time, it's not. So to see these things written out can really inspire you to make sure that you are doing these things while you're reading, right? And then it gives you some things to do after the reading, something to revisit your learning goal, have somebody tell you the learning goal, have them all tell you the learning goal, use that switch. You know what to do, differentiate it, right? And then it gives you the things to do based on the level. So we love those differentiated levels. If you're in a level 1, all your kids are level 1 or level 2, in that small group, have students answer a question or complete a sentence frame from the level 2 practice by making a selection from a field of 2 to 3 errorless choices in order to identify one way that matter can change. I love that, because it tells you exactly how you can call back to what you just learned with the level 1 students. But then it also gives you an idea of what to do, an activity for level 2 and for level 3. This is great. This is so helpful. If you have a story, I encourage you to check to see if there is an activity page like this that goes along with your story, so that you can have those ideas sitting in your mind. You might forget a vocabulary word. That's fine. But you're starting off knowing, like, hey, while I'm reading, I'm going to touch on vocabulary. That's something that I'm definitely going to do. And you might remember to point out solid, liquid, and gas. It's awesome. It's awesome. You might not have remembered to do that if you didn't read this ahead of time. So use this and let this grow you. Let it guide you when you're doing your read alouds. So those are very cool. All right. And we are going to go into the teacher reference material just so we can look at these real quick. This is something that I really encourage you to look at on your own, because there's so much content in here, right? They have instructional tools, guides, alignment tools. You see, just like off the bat, you see the greeting cards, you see the letter to the parents, you see scientific inquiry processes. I used to use this to make my lessons, tracing letters. These are just things that they think that you might want to use. Everything's in here. You can really do everything with ULS. It is fabulous. So that's your teacher tools, your reference materials, and then your topics. This is important. This is ULS's pacing guide. I don't know if they always had this, but I don't remember this from longer than like 2 years ago. And this was great when this started coming out. Maybe I just didn't know where it was, but now I do. And I look at this every year. It lets you know what's coming up, what to expect. 2023, 2024, it's going to give you their pacing guide. And here's what I recommend doing, if you can, if you find yourself so able. It's going to tell you the order that they are teaching science and social studies. And you're going to notice that, let's say I click on I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look at elementary, right? You're going to notice that they alternate between science and social studies based on the month. So they might have your ELA, your math, and then they're focusing on a science standard. The next month, it's ELA, math, and they're focusing on a social study standard. They go back and forth. That doesn't mean that there isn't always a science activity. There is. There's always going to be a science activity. If it's not a science month, you're going to notice that that science activity is probably reteaching a concept that you learned the previous month, and same thing to do with social studies. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at their pacing guide. And you could do your best to try and align your pacing guide with their pacing guide, and that way it will follow the theme. So if you are in elementary school and you are on Unit 2, I'm sorry, this is K-12 topics. So if you're in elementary school and you are on Unit 21, you're going to see that what they're focusing on Unit 21 is We Work Together Government, a social studies topic. And if you go into that area in the courses, you are going to see what standard specifically that talks about. So social studies. And then Unit 22 is science. And it looks like they did science again for Unit 23. And then they go to social studies. So they're not focusing on science and social studies usually in the same month. So you'll see their pacing guide for that. And here we are back at our teacher dashboard. I hope that you found this video helpful. This was definitely one of the longer videos, a lot more detailed. You might see that this video is actually broken up into multiple videos. But I encourage you to take a look back at some of our other videos that talk about the different components of unique learning systems. And thank you so much for watching.